permission to speak. Shadows hide you. I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you! Never lose hope.
Here, Fred Shaft.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, friend!
All right, welcome to episode 427 of Coin Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, December 28th, 2023 in the evening. Coming to you from Nobrega, Ohio, it's me, Edelweiss. From Northern Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
From Taldersville, California, we have Megasa.
Hello.
And a special welcome to our guest and 2023's world champion from Elwyn, United Kingdom. We have PocketTrain. Welcome.
Hello. Happy to be here.
And of course, from all around the world, we have you, dear listeners. As always, thank you for your kind reviews. If you'd like to support the show but cannot do so monetarily, please consider leaving us a 5-star review, as it always helps people find the show. So we're going to do a quick life and ladder, and then we're just going to dive right into the interview. Interview is basically the whole show. There's no news. There's no tournaments. They talked about the World Championship last week. I'm sure it'll come up today. I don't know, maybe. And otherwise we just want to give all the time we can to our guest on this otherwise pretty off week. Everyone's on holiday for Hearthstone, and Soddle, it sounds like, is taking a holiday from Hearthstone due to state of Rogue. Certain
Man after my own heart.
Yeah. Megasa, so yeah, how are you doing with Hearthstone, holidays, etc.?
Pretty good. Quite a low-key holiday for me, so I've actually played a decent amount. I had been not too high on my rank, been experimenting with a lot of things since the patch, doing best with a Dragon Drum Druid, actually. But I thought I would try a little bit of Paladin again. The nerfs really, did hit, especially at higher MMRs, really did hit Paladin. Even just like not having that little 3 damage face for just some over the top damage if you don't get it from Countess. So I was playing Paladin. I faced a Pilot from the Discord and got demolished by them playing Naga Priest. And I was like, why am I not playing Naga Priest? That's my brand. I had been doing a little bit poorly with it before because I think I was having some interference effects of previous Naga Priest. But so I picked up Pocket's list from Worlds. I had watched some masterful piloting and been doing really well with it. So I've been destroying druids mainly. I'm like 75%
That's the way to do it
versus druids. And there was a couple games where I discovered a Gigafin off an Amonthul to get back on board against a Treant Druid. So that doesn't really count, although that is kind of what Amonthul is there for. But you can just have some really nutty boards in that deck. And I know some people have been talking about maybe cutting Pelagos, but I like Pelagos. And Pelagos is really fun when he works out well. Same with Valish.
Somebody here translates to Zacho.
Yes.
I think.
And I don't have the data, but there are definitely lots of games where I feel like Pelagos really put on a lot of pressure or burst. You don't necessarily need to get sometimes you get that amazing giant minion off of Pelagos. You don't necessarily need that every time, depends on the matchup. But I think I cracked it. It feels really good to be playing again. It's a complicated deck, but also proactive, and those are my favorite. And it has some staying power with Amonthul, and just been really fun, really hitting those druids. Luckily, I had been seeing a lot of the Sludge OTK. I have not been seeing a lot of the Sludge OTK now. I think it really fell off, thank God. I've been seeing the Sludge Implock, which is where you were from the very beginning, Edel.
So I think people were playing so much of it because it had just hit that list, the combo version with Thaddeus, and people. So yeah, I mean, still pretty much any Warlock I see is that Thaddeus list. But I think people started to realize that it's actually a 50% deck It's just that when it wins, there's nothing they can do. And certainly, I imagine there was a lot of the losing to it, feeling like you couldn't do anything, and then trying to play the deck and realizing how you lose.
The circle of life, as it were.
Yeah.
Yep.
But Pocket, I saw from a clip from your stream that you've definitely been playing some of that Naga Priest. How is it going for you?
Yeah, I haven't played that much since Worlds itself. I've been endeavoring to go outside a bit more and see family who I've like neglected for a year. But yeah, I got COVID, so I'm confined to my room now. So I decided to boot up the stream today and had some decently fun games with the Naga Priest. I think that is probably still my favorite deck at the moment, like because it's still a little bit fresh. It's usually not my kind of style of play, but it does have like the combo-ish potential. But yeah, I still got rogued a little bit. There was that one game that we were talking about earlier where you think you're fine full board against a rogue with like you're at like 20, they've got an empty board. Suddenly, no, your board's gone. They've set up lethal, empty hand, like cards that aren't in their deck, and so when that happens, it's a little bit sore. But that's the Naga Priest way, kind of. You got to make them have it, and if they have it, you lose. If they don't have it, then you win. It's very much make them have it deck.
I mean, you're not playing around Urchin Spines into Immolation Aura as a Naga Priest. I mean, that's just a common rogue play.
That's just what
With
rogues always.
Deputization Aura on the top of it to full
Yeah,
heal
yeah.
and set up lethal.
I had one game today where I purposely decided to not play around Reno because I had lost anyway, and then they didn't have Reno, and I was so pleased with myself.
Just
But
gotta make 'em have it.
usually they have Reno.
There's only one copy, right? Yeah, by definition.
And testing for Worlds, actually, I played Naga Priest against Reno Druid so much. And the only games I lost were when they Reno'd on 5. Those are the only ones.
Yeah,
But
that
they
checks
did it a lot.
Well, they draw half their deck on 4,
Okay.
so you know.
But were you testing against Reno decks that ran duplicates or that didn't?
This was 2 Splish Splash, 2 Nourish, and
Gotcha. Okay.
I don't know if you've ever seen Meaty on Reno Druid, but he's an animal at drawing Splish Splash on 2. It's crazy. Like sitting in call with him, and he's there going, "I've done it again."
He used
But
up
yeah.
all of his luck before the
Yeah,
event.
very much. But like, Priest is super good at farming the Druids if they don't have that exact hand, for sure.
Well, you play some different kinds of priests, Wicked, but
Yeah.
how is your life in that?
I mean, I'm also farming the Druids, but I'm doing it a little bit differently. I have been all I've been playing is Reno Priest. I am completely eating my words, and I've been tinkering with the deck a little bit. I took No Hands' list, and I've just been like tinkering it for the stuff that I'm seeing, and the fact that I'm not playing at the ranks that No Hands is playing at, and I'm doing relatively well with it since the Warlock dropped off. I mean, the OTK Warlock was just like, those were non-games, but since those dropped off a bit, it's been a little bit smoother. And like the Druids, you generally, unless they have like a god opening, more often than not, like there are just enough clears. If you live to 5 or 6, you're probably fine. So I've just been doing my best to live to 5 or 6, and then. You know, and then I always just have Reno on 8, so it's fine. But at least in that deck, you know, with the Ziliax and the Yogg and the Amanthul and the, I mean, Blackwater Behemoth, you're always running. It just does a lot, and you farm the rogues too because you just have enough answers for whatever nonsense they're doing, and they spend the first 4 turns just putting cards on the board and then putting them back in their hand, and putting them on the board and putting them back in their hand. So you can kind of take the time to draw the stuff that you're looking for. And I put a Drown in the deck for Drilly just because I'm, you know, evil. But I haven't used it all that much, but it makes me feel good when I do get to do it because I hate playing it. But the problem with the Thief Rogue is you just don't like. It doesn't feel good to beat it because it just feels like they didn't either drew in the wrong order or didn't generate the right things. So it's like we just spent 10 minutes playing, playing generate a whole bunch of cards and see if you can make something happen, and that doesn't feel great, which is always my concern with it. But I think this particular incarnation is even more so than like the old Maestra test versions, because at least that was killing with wild panos, and this isn't even really doing that. So
Yeah, I feel like Breakdance needs to be worse in that deck. But uh, personally, I play a little different style of deck, and so I feel great when I beat rogues. I was messing around a bunch with Rainbow Decay, which is still not like the greatest, but Corpse Bride into the Stitch Giant feels really good.
oh, it's got taunt now.
It does have taunt now, which has been extremely relevant. So yeah, making a 10-10 taunt and then an 8-8 giant in the mid game is pretty awesome. And sometimes you get some crazy 8 drops off of the corpse farm. I think I named the deck Lordaeron Gothic because you've got all the farming cards. And there's that famous painting, at least in US here, called American Gothic. That's the one that Ma and Pa, the art, is modeled off of. So yeah, that's been fun. I actually was climbing with that after a bit of a bender where I tried the Thaddeus Warlock and various things, and got that out of my system. And yeah, I want to experiment with all different kinds of rogue things, but I also don't want to be the rogue player on ladder. So, so I'm in kind of an awkward spot. Not really sure what I want to climb with. I did try the newest iteration of the Naga DH, and adding the Titan is hilarious because there are games where you either basically use your coins to get it out and then discount your sharpshooter and all the Nagas in your hand by 2, and then you pop off the next turn. Or there are times where you've got enough 0 mana spells in the hand and Nagas that you just, the turn you play the Titan is also the turn that you combo off. And you play the sharpshooter to the right of Argus, so she has lifesteal.
Nice.
Every time she shoots. So yeah, some hilarious comeback potential from games that otherwise you would be like too low life to be able to do 2 pop off turns. You instead like use the first one with Argus to gain yourself a whole bunch of life, and then you'll have time to actually finish them off. So that's interesting. I just don't love that there are games where you just whiff and you just have to like let it slide off your back because what are you gonna do? You didn't draw sharpshooter. Your deck doesn't work.
Yep.
When I play Naga DH, I just call those Naga DH games. So
Yeah. But I think we've dilly-dallied long enough. We should dive right into our interview with the guests. So, for anyone who doesn't know you, Pocket, why don't you give us a brief background of just like your history with Hearthstone?
So, I first started playing Hearthstone when I was, what was it, 12? 12 years old, so 10 years
oh
ago.
god, I'm
I
gonna
got
crumble to
in-
dust.
Yeah, I used to like, I like World of Warcraft. My dad played it when I was a kid, so I saw it, they were like making a new game from my perspective, and like I caught some streams and stuff, and thought, oh, that looks like a lot of fun. So I got into the closed beta. I was super excited when I got home from school. Jammed my first arena run, went 3-3, felt like a god. And yeah, just kind of loved the game since. I was not good at it for years and years, just played it kind of casually. It's hard stuck like Sea Giant rank, I think, at the time, back before they changed the ladder ranks. And it wasn't for quite a few years that I got Legend for the first time. And then like a couple of years, so it was 2019, end of 2019, I played Mally Druid. I liked Mally Druid at the time, and then found myself on the last day of the season. I was ranked 3. Like I'd never finished inside top 300 before, top 200 before. Last day of the season, I was ranked 3. Then I did some googling and found out that top 16 qualified for a Masters tour. So this was Halloween night. So I'm going out to like a Halloween party, and I'm on my phone going, "Is my rank okay? Is my rank okay?" I had a little celebration at midnight with my friends. When I think I ended up finishing rank 10, and so that gave me an invite to a tournament in America. I'd never been to the US before. So that was exciting. My parents came with me. Masters Tour Arlington. It was actually the last in-person Masters Tour they did. So I did that. I did terribly at the Masters Tour, horribly awful. Like I was so out of my depth. Like lost to like everyone. I mean, actually, I made it to day 2 and then got rolled on day 2 anyway. I think I started 0-2 and then felt quite bad, like going face to face to people because like back then, if you lost 3 times on day 1, you were out of the tournament. So like I went 0-2 and then I just knocked 3 people out in a row, which felt a little
no.
a little bad. And then I lost. Then I immediately lost every game I played the second day, so I didn't even get more money. I just like knocked them out of the tournament and went, "Oh, I'm gonna do just as badly as you." But anyway, since then, I just kind of haven't looked back on ladder. I've got to finish every month I've needed to qualify for Masters tours, and just made it a thing because I realized I could make money from it, and yeah, and it culminated in winning the world championship, which is kind of insane. Uh, didn't expect it to get this far. Addiction
Yeah.
got out of hand, but in a good way.
I mean, that's kind of all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I never did any of those big Swiss Masters tours, but I remember qualifying for Copa America, which was they flew me out to Rio, and I got my butt kicked by people like Muzzy and um, oh Hoy. I think Hoy beat
Hoy
me
was
as
very
well.
good.
Yeah.
I remember I
Yeah.
had this kind of immediate like this is it moment where like back then before you got your first opponent you'd get paired with someone else in the Masters tour and you'd like sit across the table for them for like a 5-minute
Mhm.
chat. I didn't know this, so instantly it just says me against RDU, and I'm like I've just like grandmaster famous player for years and years and years, and here's just little me just playing at my first tournament that I high rolled my way into 1 month randomly and sitting across from him, and he is huge in person, by the way.
Really?
He's so tall. Like some of the players, unbelievably, like because you only ever see people like sitting down, so you imagine
Mhm.
everyone is very small. But like suddenly this guy towering over me, I'm thinking, oh god, please don't crush me. And and then and then thankfully I wasn't against him, and then I mean I lost to everyone anyway. But yeah, it was a big intimidating moment there.
Yeah, it's tough diving right into a Masters tour for a tournament without having done like DreamHack Opens or any of those early days of Hearthstone esports. Well, now you are much more seasoned. So what kind of or sorry, this is your question, Megasa. I will edit that out. I'm just getting carried away.
Let's don't have to. All right. One thing that I was really curious about is what steps that you go through to learn a new deck, and also, how you evaluate your play to figure out what to improve. I think that was like one thing that I found really difficult to learn was just how to learn how to get better at the game. So, what's kind of your process?
So for me, it's like it's the unhealthy route of just play too much, basically. To be honest, like I could this year I've got through like 70 games a day for days on end, which is ridiculous. And then at that point, you just build an understanding in general for stuff that you not only play but you play against. So
Mhm.
it's like when you're playing a deck, always consider what your opponent can do, and that'll give you a little bit of a head start into learning that deck yourself, if that makes sense. So like
Mhm.
obviously you're not going to be perfect with any deck immediately because you're going to have to build up some familiarity especially with like combo decks that have pop-offs and stuff like that. Like Naga Priest as well, not exactly a combo deck, but like some things you need some mechanical familiarity with like that. So you just got to accept that you're gonna lose for a while at first, and it's being okay with that is good. And like talking to other people who are more experienced than you on the deck, like there's no shame in ever doing that. I've always had a good network of people who just have a head start on learning a deck than me, because you can't learn everything first, right? So that's important as well. I think the way I got into competing in the first place was I watched a lot of streams, a lot of streams, like Jambray. Back in the day, there was a guy called Freddie B, Danish player who quit a while ago. But yeah, I watched his stream a lot, and it's just seasoned players that like you hear their thought processes, and then you start to take that into account in your own games, I think. But yeah, most of it is reps, a lot of reps on decks, and yeah, then you build a general understanding for the meta, and you can pick up new decks faster, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, the more that I've played a certain deck, I absolutely feel better on it. But when you learn lots of decks like that, it's like people say about learning languages. I don't know a bunch of languages, but each one that you learn gets easier.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, one of the things, like, watching you play, certainly within Worlds, but just in general, is like there are things that you just kind of see that the average player doesn't see. Like, what is it that, like, that your brain has started to do you think? Or is there any, I mean, obviously, is there any way to bottle that would be would be great, but like, what are some things that you're just kind of instinctively doing that maybe you weren't doing when you begun, that a lot, or that you see other players not doing, that kind of gives you an edge in some of those situations, especially when you're playing like a combo deck that just requires you to process all this information so quickly? Like, how do you do it?
The combo deck thing is definitely a mechanical familiarity thing. Like there was a point where I think I got 4,000 games of Mizaki Mage over 2 months at one point, which is it was either 2 or 3 months. I don't know if 2 months is actually physically possible, but it was a short space of time. That's where it is in my memory. That might be a little off, but yeah, I had a ridiculous amount of games on that deck, and a lot of it was mechanical familiarity. And something that I think a lot of other players don't do is they don't trust their instincts enough. Like I've watched back my games in Worlds, and I rope very few turns. Like I play very fast there, because you got to. A mistake I made early when I was competing was people go, "Oh, rope every turn so that you can, you know, consider everything." That's good on the surface, but what you're then doing is going, "Oh, they might have this, they might have that." And this is actually something I kind of picked up from watching Gabby play, where Gabby shows no respect to his opponents. He's just going, "You don't have it, I'm going to kill you." And so it's like finding a balance with that is quite important, I think. And I don't know if this exactly relates to the question, but with the combo deck thing, it was very much the reps. But for the rest of it, it's like, don't assume your opponent has it. It's like, trust yourself. If you think you're good, trust yourself. If you know that you've learned things, if you put in the prep, then trust yourself. It is the main thing. Obviously, if you haven't learned stuff, then there's a learning process before doing this. But when the games actually matter, then there's an element of definitely trust what you've learned, and don't like overthink it. Because they could have the perfect hand, they could have the card that beats you, but more often not, they're not going to. So let yourself win when they don't have it.
Yeah, my worst problem is always when I'm overthinking and then I don't have time to do the execution, and like don't press the location to get the ghost, or that
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's
Watching you
almost the corollary to like bad players go face, good players trade, great players go face. Like, sounds like the same kind of thing.
Mhm.
And there are some decks where you just have to trust yourself. Like watching you on Naga Mage earlier this year, and just like the incredibly fast discovers was really incredible to watch.
Yeah, with decks like Naga Mage as well, no matter how good you are, you just need to go into it accepting you're not going to play it perfectly, and that's okay.
Stuff is gonna happen.
Yeah. Like there are too many things to demand perfection from yourself. You need to demand good enough. And then that's fine. Just get the turn done with a lot of these decks. And obviously it's better if you do it perfectly, and then if you play more and more and more, then you'll build up the like muscle memory, and you'll get more of them perfect. But yeah, with decks like that, it's very much just get the turn done, hope it's good enough, and it probably will be.
I understand now why you've got a picture of Encanter's Flow on your Twitch.
Oh, Mizaki Mage, I love that deck.
Well, in terms of this past year, how many hours of Hearthstone do you think you generally played per day? You said like 70 games. Like,
Um, so I did have phases where I didn't play much daily. It was like when my ladder rank wasn't good enough, I was just non-stop playing until it was. So it was like I could wake up, play Hearthstone all day, go to sleep, do rinse and repeat, and I could get like stretches of 10 hour a day for like weeks on end, which yeah, I've been vocally miserable at times this year, and you can see why. Um, but yeah, that hasn't happened so much recently because obviously, I won the third Masters Tour of the year. I had a big points lead. I was quite relaxed because I put in such an unhealthily ridiculous amount of work earlier on in the year. It's like March was ridiculous. Yeah, the first 3 months of the year were ridiculous. Like I was just playing nonstop, thinking, okay, rank one, rank one, rank one, less work to do later in the year, and then I was just miserable afterwards.
well,
So,
so then how much time do you think you spent outside the game, like prepping in terms of for the tournament and I don't know, you just consider that all part of this?
It's a big mix because a lot of it is so we with specifically Worlds, we did a lot more theory than the Masters tours, that's for sure.
Mhm.
Um, but outside the game for most of the Masters tours, there wasn't a huge amount. It was more, we think this deck's all right. Let's just make sure we know that's the case, and then get a ton of reps on like the fourth deck in the lineup, kind of thing. It was the main idea. A lot of the time, it was weird because for the second Masters tour, for the second and third Masters tours in particular, I kind of settled on a lineup quite early. So everything from that point was just play this deck, play that deck, play whatever deck to see if that convinces me to switch the lineup. But not much of the prep in general was actually done outside the game itself. It was quite like look at HS replay, look at all these different decks, see if one is better than you expect by actually get games on it yourself. But for Worlds, we did a lot of outside the game prep though. But it was the Masters tours, mostly just reps on decks.
so like you'd mentioned in the post Worlds interview about how much your parents were supporting you. Like, what was their reaction like March, April, May when you were grinding yourself to a husk and stressing out like that? Like, were they ever concerned at any point or?
Um, I was living in London. Like I'm in a very fortunate position where like my parents moved out of our house when I turned 18, which is obviously the reverse. And they moved to like when I was old enough, they just went, okay, we'll move to the nicer house we usually go on holiday, and that's where they've been living full time since, which is super lucky for me. So I've just got a house in London, which is incredibly
Great.
fortunate. So I've been living there most of the year just on my own. So a lot of the misery they weren't witnessing firsthand, but sometimes it's been, I've just said, I need to come and stay in a bad way. And there was a point, it was like June or July, um, where we were supposed to go back to London. They were going to, because obviously it's still their house. They go and visit and do different things there now and then. And so I was going to go back with them. And the morning of, like I'd had a horrible day on ladder the previous day. The morning of, I just went, I'm not going. I'm not feeling it. It was like 2 days left of the season. I went, I can't. I can't do this. I'm miserable. I can't leave here. And yeah, they were just going, okay, that's fine, that's fine. We'll still go, but you do you. And so it's very much they might have had to walk on eggshells a little bit around me this year, but for the most part, my mum's been just excited every time I compete. She's very competitive. We're quite competitive in our family, so she likes just following the tournaments, following each name. Like she has no idea about the game, but like she picks up on all the names, uh, asks me about what she does the Twitch chat question of what happened to your rank sometimes. Like I'll just get a text after I've had a bad ladder day. It's like I don't want to talk about it. I've had a bad day, okay. But yeah, she's been just very excitedly following different names. It's just, oh, Meaty's had a bad day today, hasn't he? And the different things like that. It's quite funny. Yeah, it's mostly been just the misery part has been okay, they just give me my space to do whatever, and I can come here and they'll happily support me, like feed me and stuff when I'm staying here, which is lovely. But they don't like require anything of me. I usually would just stay up in my room and come down for meals and just grind on ladder all day, and then sometimes we'll play a game with family members that'll come over on the good days, but those are few and far between. But yeah, when tournaments went well, then it all felt worth it.
Yeah.
Well, and now that Worlds is over, depending on what they announce for the next year of esports, like, would you do it again, or do you just like take this? I'm the reigning champion. Good enough.
I change my mind about this daily, to be honest. So I've looked. I've obviously looked back at the world's win many times because it's like the best moment of my life basically. So I've relived it loads of times. But in doing that, I've watched my own play and gone, okay, I could have done this better. I could have done that better. And then also looked at the opponents and gone, they could have done this better. They could have done that better. So I'm seeing room to improve for myself, and also thinking I can beat this competition again, probably not in a like a super disrespectful way, but like they can obviously improve as well. But it's like it was considering I wasn't playing at my best and the world's run was super smooth itself. Obviously, lineup massively helped, and I got lucky here and there. But I do think there's room for me to improve. But I couldn't do this system again. It was too much. It was too miserable.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone who took part this year could do this system again.
Uh-huh.
We were all very unhappy by the end. At least the people I spoke to, Rekvam and Meaty, were not in happy places by the end of the year. But I think we're all feeling much better since even them, even though they didn't have quite the luck I did at Worlds itself.
So this is a question we're going to ask later, but like, so if they put you in charge of Hearthstone esports for next year, like what would that system look like in your mind? Obviously, something not necessarily to be more advantageous to you, but just to be, a better player experience compared to
Yeah.
what you went through this year.
The thing is, this year, I'm going to answer your question with like something slightly different, but it relates, and then I'll get to that. This year was the system that suited me the most. I think, like I looked at it. The reason I decided to compete is I looked at it and went, I'm probably the best ladder grinder around. Like apart from Gabby when he was at Gabby getting rank 1 every single month for like a year straight. That's the only time anyone around present day has done better than me on ladder. So I looked at it and went, okay, if I put the time in, I will get to worlds. But considering that system where I kind of knew from the start of the year I'd be at worlds if I put the effort in, considering that still made me miserable, I would definitely shake it up quite a lot, because if the player that it suits the most is very unhappy doing it, then you've got issues. So it would look quite different. I think the main thing is you need some kind of an off season at different points for different players, because you can't have it where the optimal what the like requirement is every single month nonstop. Like you have to have like someone gets a month off here and there, instead of like every single month. This is your whole life. If you want to make worlds, this is the best way to do it. Right? If you just ruin your life more than everyone else, So you can't have that. So it's like realistically, it's not possible to go back to like massive open cups and stuff straight away without like some big boom in the Hearthstone esports thing, which I don't think we've quite had enough this year to warrant some huge budget increase. But some kind of off season, so it's like a best finish once every 2 months or 3 months or something. So you have a little bit of a break if you do well in the first month, or if you do badly in the first month, you've still got something to aspire to. Because we had loads of people that they missed the finish in January, they quit for the entire year after that, which that's not great. And people that missed the finish in April, they didn't play to qualify for that Masters tour, and so on. Like if you miss the first finish, all your incentives are gone, and that's quite miserable. So I think a way to allow people to actually have a bad month and then still be a part of the system. And it was a bit too exclusive as well. Obviously, the like 16-player Masters tours, that's not enough, really. It's the main thing, the main like joy of competing, at least the past few years before this, was it was so open. Anyone could get in and anyone could like high roll one of those big 400-player Masters tours. Like, so you had something to aspire to. Everyone had like a path to the top. Apart from like Grandmasters was a bit dodgy with that, but like last year at least, someone could show up to a big Masters tour, have a great finish, suddenly they're in the seasonal championship. That was like me. I got a win last year, and that was like a big breakthrough thing for me. And then you build from that. But with this, it was like the only people that made it, barring like WeQ and CJ Kaka. CJ had been in loads of Masters tours before, never had a huge performance, but WeQ in particular is the only player that we didn't really know that much about going into this year. Well, we didn't know anything about him. He never competed before this year. But yeah, some kind of route for like lower status players to get in there without being an established ladder grinder that can dedicate all this time. So I don't know how to really go about that without doing like a massive tournament for like top 1,000 finishes, just like a massive open tournament. But that's not really realistic with admin costs and stuff. So I don't really know. But you could make it at least like top 50, or something. Just a bigger Masters tour, I think. So you get people that aren't the absolute top grinders have a chance.
Yeah, and maybe if you're giving like a month, best of 3 months, then you allow more people in to have a bigger bracket to make that kind of even out a little bit.
Yeah, that's like it's slightly less skill rewarding in a way, but I mean the skill is more the grind. But like with the way it's worked this year, we absolutely had the top players at the tournaments. We had a great field, but I don't think that's good for the competition as a whole. Like it's good for the players competing because they've got a better chance due to being better. But I think it doesn't allow breathing room to like improve and become one of those better players. It's like rich get richer kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, and kind of the dream of an esport is always like the opportunity to go to Worlds. And you kind of knew at the start of the year whether that was possible, like remotely possible for you or not.
Yeah, that was the same gripe I had with the Grandmaster system, right? When only Grandmasters could get into Worlds, that was just so demoralizing. Especially being from Europe, you had to like win a Masters tour and get a top cut at another one or something. It was ridiculous. But yeah, they kind of sort of recreated that this year, but you had a lot more control over it. But the control wasn't like a enjoyable control, as I've said.
Yeah. Well, there's also the problem with like burnout on people doing that over multiple years. Like it's just not sustainable without some sort of a guaranteed payout at the end of it to put in that kind of time. Like I'm not sure. I mean, obviously you had your parents supporting you. I still don't know how Meaty managed to put in all those hours and on top of being a doctor. Like it's just like holding down a full-time job in addition to the amount of time that you need to be grinding on ladder just seems unsustainable for more than a year of doing something like this.
Yeah, I've spoken to Meaty a lot this year. Like he's been him along with Rekvam. I've talked to the most. We've done most of the year together, basically. And for most of it, he's just a crazy man. He like he was just loving Hearthstone, didn't really care, just did his thing. But towards the end, he started to show some cracks, and yeah, it's not sustainable for him either. Even though he was like the biggest psycho. I don't this year. He's just
He
I
has
don't
a
know how
job.
better to describe it. He's just like I think he doesn't sleep. That's the only solution I've got. The only explanation I've got. It's like because he full time doctor. He said he put more hours into Hearthstone this year than his job, which I think he said he earned more money from it though. Maybe not. I don't know. It was just probably he got decent payout in the end at least. But actually, yeah, I don't know his financial situation, but he got a decent payout from Hearthstone at least, and his stream's huge, so it's been easier for him, like justifying it, and I think he enjoys streaming itself. So
Sure.
that was the key for him.
But the
But
grind, I
yeah,
mean, that's like 2 full-time jobs. Like,
oh yeah, he just doesn't sleep. I don't know. He lives 2 days in one.
I mean, we've talked a lot about managing the mental game and how sort of unsustainable it's been. But this is all making me think of, we like to talk about the mental game sometimes, and sometimes the advice that we'll give people is, for people who are not trying to qualify, the ladder rank mostly doesn't really matter. Um, and often, it's when you're not paying as much attention to it that you really do well. But if you are trying to qualify, it really, really does matter. Were there times that you would feel ladder anxiety, and if so, like how do you deal with that?
For me, ladder anxiety, the anxiety itself ended a while ago due to familiarity with competing at the top ranks. But like I used to get it quite a lot, and that only goes away over time. I think I still get horrible anxiety in tournaments. But in terms of like, I get ladder frustration because sometimes you have days where you just lose. There's nothing you can do. It doesn't matter, and then the lines get blurred a little bit because of tilt and stuff. No one's immune to that because you have to put in the hours and hours and hours. Like this year, it's been usually the advice you give someone is, "Oh, take a break, come back." This year, it's no. The season ends in 10 hours. You can't take a break. You have to keep playing. You haven't slept in a week, sure, but keep going. So times like that has been very helpful for me, having like a network of people who are in the same spot. Like I talk to Meaty and Rekvam a lot. Sometimes with Meaty in particular, we'll just hop in a call, we'll play our games at the same time, just like keep each other calm, that kind of thing. And it's just nice to just relax a bit more. It helps just trying to make the game a little bit more fun again by, even if you're not enjoying the game itself, if you've got other people that you can like enjoy talking about the game with, or just to calm you down, sitting in a call with them, you can complain together sometimes, and then that's just a bit better. When it becomes too much about I have to win, I have to win, I have to win, then it is miserable, especially if you're alone, and no one's immune to that, I don't think.
So was that when you'd mentioned in the post Worlds interview about John Bray reaching out to you and bringing you into his group, was that part of what kind of changed things for you, or how did that gesture make a difference in terms of how you were competing, up to that point versus subsequently?
I think that's got to be that's probably the single biggest like influencing factor in like the entire, like, I guess career is the word, which feels weird for me to use about anything.
They're paying you, so it's a career. So yeah.
Yeah, I think you're justified at this point.
But like getting exposed to so many established good players, hearing all their opinions, and then hearing them want to hear your opinions is very validating, right? So you begin to trust yourself more, and then you just get a little bit from each other, right? And then you all rub off on each other a bit. And like I said earlier, when you've got someone who's more experienced on a deck than you to help you learn it, it's like that. But like with the game on the whole, you all raise each other up. And like I would have never talked to people like Fury Hunter, Dead Draw, Rekfam, and Meaty themselves. Like these top players who just like you see them win and you go, wow, I speak to that guy, and just go, that could be me, kind of thing. That was a big validating moment for me. I think the biggest one watching that was, I think Rekvam got top 4 in a Masters tour, I think it was 2 years ago. And then like from that point, because like I'd seen him in prepping for that tournament, and I'd gone, okay, so I know the work that goes in to put you there, instead of feeling like a bit of an imposter in Masters tours and stuff. Like, you know that you're one of those people now. And like I spoke to Fury Hunter, brilliant player, very, very established, respected player, and he said to me that he thought I was going to win the next Masters tour. This was right before Masters Tour Stormwind. What happened was I got top 16 in that tournament, and the person who actually won that tournament was Fury Hunter himself. So, so he comes away from that. Beforehand, he'd gone, I'm going to quit Hearthstone now. You're probably going to win the next Masters Tour. You're really good. And then he goes and wins the Masters Tour, makes it to GM, and then has another brilliant year. That like, yeah, hearing the opinions of so many people I respected really like validated my own opinions, the fact that they wanted to listen to me and all that, and obviously they could give me advice and all that as well.
So we kind of touched on this, but in terms of your lineups and stuff, um, you work that all out with the practice group. Like, what determines if you bring something different from other people, or
So most of it, I mean, we'd have a massive group for Masters Tours in previous years, so everyone would kind of end up on different things because loads of people have different deck preferences. I can't convince like 10 other people to bring Mizaki Mage to a tournament, or Ball Priest or something like that, right? Like, people prefer aggro, people prefer control. People have tendencies, right? And they go, okay, even if that is the best lineup, I can't play it, and that's fine. I think eventually, I mean, this year I had to learn to play every kind of lineup. In the past, it's just been, I want to play combo if I can, and that won me some stuff, and also got me in some bad spots as well. But this year in particular, it was like we had initial ideas. We go, this is probably good, and then it's the people competing themselves that had most of the say, and then we had extended practice group of people who weren't in the Masters tours themselves. Their main job was just, you ask them to play this matchup and they'd happily do it, and that was lovely to have that help from. But the impetus was always on you to like choose your own lineup, which wasn't that hard until Worlds, I think. Really, it was like first Masters tour, everyone had either Relic or Outcast Demon Hunter. That wasn't that hard, and I just couldn't win with Relic DH on ladder, so I just went, okay, whatever, I'm playing Outcast, and I think it was the better bring. The other one, Frost Death Knight, was like the best deck in the game. That was a bring, even though I almost brought Blood until like I hopped in the shower 10 minutes before deck submission. I always did this every Masters Tour this year, and like to just clear my head. And then I had a thought, Blood Death Knight's terrible. I'm going to switch to Frost. I sprint out of the shower to my desk, and then quickly change it just before submission. And I tell Meaty, who ended up bringing Blood, what I've done, and he was not best pleased, but it ended up being, like, he was happy with Blood. He went 0-2. It wasn't good. But we managed. Yeah, we tunnel visioned a little bit on that Masters tour. We brought a terrible mage deck, but everyone had a horrible fourth deck in that Masters tour as well. And we also had Miracle Rogue, because Miracle Rogue was, that's always been a solid deck. So like most lineups in that were Demon Hunter, Rogue, Death Knight +1, and we had the rubbish mage. Other people had the rubbish Shadow Priest, and then other people had the Anub Druid, which was probably quite good, but wasn't great in terms of the meta. But power level, it was like the best fourth deck. so that probably would have been the better bring. But yeah, that Masters Tour, I'm not overly proud of our prep. We echo chambered a little bit, just me and Meaty. And then the second one, we spread out the prep a little bit, got Fury Hunter involved. Like day one of him joining our prep for that, he went, bring Naga Mage, bring Outcast Demon Hunter, bring Mech Rogue, and bring, what was the fourth one? Nature Shaman. That's the one.
Sure.
And he just goes, they beat Druid, bring those. Job done. Like day one. And then we spend like a week or two going, okay, but what are the other lineups? And then we looked at everything else on offer and we went, nah, those are all terrible. And then we ended up just bringing the lineup he suggested day one, which was nice. And it also happened to be my favorite kind of decks. Meaty ended up not bringing the Naga Mage because it's one of those decks, right? If you can't play Naga Mage, you don't play Naga Mage. Rakvam brought the exact same lineup as me with the Naga Mage, and he regretted it because he wasn't that comfortable with it. He wasn't that comfortable with the Nature Shaman either. Neither was Meaty, but his got banned like every time, apart from by me, I think. And so yeah, that was quite a straightforward lineup, I think, because it was decks I liked that happened to just be, I think, the best lineup in the tournament because they beat. The way I've looked at lineups a lot this year is have a target against a popular deck, but also don't bring horrible decks where if you don't hit your target, you lose. Because like I saw one Druid that entire tournament, and I was still favored against everyone. Like I saw a Druid round one, 3-0'd him, wasn't close, and then played the rest. Had closer series after that, but still won them until throwing the final. But and then the third Masters Tour kind of did the same, just solid decks. There wasn't really anything targetable apart. Well, it was like just solid against the popular decks of Mage and maybe like playable against Mech Rogue, not brilliant against. Yeah, it was just like I was just playing mirrors basically, and just bring solid decks where if you're good, you have a good shot, and that's how it kind of panned out. And then Worlds was very different. It was very because the way I saw the Worlds meta was not an overly skill testing meta, to be honest, in terms of gameplay. So we went, okay, this is a lineup tournament. This isn't a gameplay tournament. This is a lineup tournament. We have to nail the lineup. And honestly, I thought our lineup was very obvious because it was like the 4 best decks statistically if you ban Paladin. That's just straight up the four best decks after a Paladin ban on stats. But it's just I think other people didn't figure out the Naga Priest was the main thing. And we were doomed. I don't like being in a spot where I'm super weak if someone has a certain lineup, but we were in big trouble if someone had like a Highlander Shaman, Odin Warrior, Control Priest kind of lineup. That would have messed up our Naga Priest, been not great for our Dragon Druid as well. But like no one had that because those decks kind of suck overall. Or at least did pre-patch. So we were in an okay spot where we could bring this. They had to have a super good read on us. And I think anyone who's followed how I've brought lineups in the past is not going to have me on aggro, really. Like I was against CJ Kaka round 1, who loves combo stuff, and I didn't really have him on bringing full control. And we had Weak Q in our group as well, who we thought wouldn't. And then Rekvam didn't bring the lineup because he thought his group might have control, and then they ended up not. But yeah, he regretted not bringing my lineup in the end because, yeah, no control.
It always surprises me when it's players who just don't know any better when they come into like, you know, a tournament player's stream. They're like, oh, what I've got a tournament this weekend, or I've got a THL match. Like, what's the best lineup? It's like, what do you know how to play? Like, just start there. Like, you're not like somebody can't give you, like, you can give somebody the 4 best decks, but like if you haven't played those, you know, 100, 200 games, you're not gonna win with them. Like, you can take jank decks if you know them really well, and you may even have a better chance sometimes if people haven't played against them or don't expect them. But like, it's never like there's just like one lineup to rule them all, because it's a combination of like what's good into the other decks, but also like, can you pilot them?
Yeah, it stretches to the top level as well. Like I mentioned with Meaty, he couldn't play Naga Mage, or at least wasn't confident enough on Naga Mage, so he brought Rainbow Mage instead. He still got top 4 in that Masters tour. He only lost to me, his practice partner, and it was 3-2. So like it could have gone either way. His mage got through, my mage got through quite quickly. It just like it wouldn't have mattered really if he brought the other one. Um, but yeah, it was like that's definitely where you start. That's how I started. I played decks that I knew how to play. Like there were bad meta reads in general. I did terribly in my first tournaments, but it builds up like a familiarity at least. At least when the other players aren't super experienced, like when you're playing your first Masters tour, everyone else is going to know better than you. You got to accept that. So play what you know how to play. Maybe what you know how to play happens to be good into the field. Probably won't be, is what it is. But yeah, that's definitely the starting point.
One question that we had from when we put out for some people in our Discord if they had questions, and one question that we had there, and obviously this depends on, we don't know what the system is going to look like next year, but what advice would you give to a player who wants to get into the tournament scene? And again, I know that depends on, like, do we have big open qualifiers or is it just ladder grinding? But are there things that would have been helpful maybe for you to know when you got started?
It's like the third party stuff, getting involved with that. Like there's not an abundance of this lately, but like I play in THL still weekly. It's like generally a lower tier than Masters tours, obviously, but keeping up to date, keeping your brain working with lineup building and just testing those skills regularly is quite a helpful thing when there are no stakes, right? It's just building up skills. Um, so that's good to keep up to date with. It also stuff like that, if you can get a foot in, that helps build that network that I ended up having with, like, you get surrounded by better and better players, you improve each other. So starting out like very much at the bottom with the more accessible, no stakes kind of regular competitive play is probably the best way to go. I don't know many other things other than THL at the moment, but I played in like the Max Open Cups and stuff back when those were going, and obviously we had the massive Open qualifiers, which they did qualify you for the Masters tours, but they were also a little bit of a relaxed
Grind.
thing, I think.
Different kind of grind.
Yeah. Like Rain runs a couple of like an open every so often in North on NA, and I think Baby Bear runs community tournaments occasionally.
Oh, the Mobius ones
For
are good, yeah.
Yeah, so on Mobius, so those are a couple things that you can seek out. We have in the Discord too. We have an open tournaments channel that's not gotten as much things posted in it lately as it used to, but any of those that are open tournaments, those are, I mean, they're usually like, you know, the small dollars if there's any prize attached to it at all, but it's not really about the money, it's just about the experience at that point.
So we've got now some of our questions that we weren't always sure if we were gonna get this far. Are you feeling good? Got
Oh
time
yeah,
in you
yeah.
yet?
I had a
All right.
little coughing fit a couple minutes ago, but I'm good to go.
Okay. So, what do you like most and least about Hearthstone? Like, what did you play any other card games besides Hearthstone, or is there something that drew you to Hearthstone over other card games?
So I got into it with World of Warcraft. I like that and saw the game and thought, oh, these are characters I know. And you know, I was never into card games hugely before. Like I do like playing cards with my family and just normal playing cards. But never massively into card games before. But like the look of Hearthstone as well, like the graphical side, like it's feels nice to look at compared to other card games I've seen around. And like I don't know how it's gone over the years because like I just played Hearthstone, kept playing Hearthstone, and like it's all familiar to me now. So, but that was one of the draws in the first place. Like it was easy to look at, easy
Mhm.
to understand everything at the start, and it might have been overcomplicated in some ways since. I don't know. It's hard to judge because I've been playing it for 10 years, so different eyes. But yeah, I like the graphical side to it, and yeah, it's just satisfying, really. Apart from some of the bugs that crop up here and there. Um, uh, Least favorite thing. Um, I mean, it probably is the bugs, to be honest. We had a
Yeah, yeah.
so we had a. Did you guys follow the DreamHack Online tournament they had a couple of years ago? It was like the DreamHack three-headed dragon, I think it was called.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
were you aware of what happened during that? There was there was a bug that they did a patch like a couple of days before, and there was a bug that showed up where you couldn't challenge people on your friends list.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I was sitting there trying to challenge my round one opponent for like 3 or 4 hours, just
Oh.
sitting there, just clicking
Oh.
challenge, and they ended up delaying the whole first day because of maybe specifically me actually, and a couple of others. There were a few most people ended up getting into their games, but some of us just couldn't. And then thankfully they fixed it in time for the next day, and then yeah, that was actually my first top cut tournament. Yeah, and ended up going quite well. But that yeah, things like that just getting in the way when you'd like to just focus on the game itself. It feels like every time there's a patch that fixes some bugs, we get a few new surprises.
I remember one as well where they had to like issue a ruling because there was a bug that worked a certain way with, I don't remember the card, what, some priest card or something?
There were a couple in that patch too. Yeah, there was, oh god, I can't remember what it is now, but there was like, yeah, there was a priest card. Oh, it would like buff a minion and create a copy of it, and you could target something that you weren't supposed to be able to target. I think you could target your opponent's minions who were supposed to be friendly or something like that.
And they were just like, well, it works this
Grave
way
rooms,
for
right?
this event.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, where you put the death rattle where it summons two copies, and
Grave rune, yeah.
if you put it on your opponent's minions, they were supposed to get the copies, but it was bugged, so you would get the copies when it died,
Yep.
and yeah, and there was something with Secret Rogue in the same patch, if I remember too, where there was some exploit with one of the Secret Rogue cards at the same time. That was a rough patch, and it took a little while to fix it. Yeah.
Or I guess
As
weekend of qualifiers. Yeah.
as someone who teaches computer science, I have so much sympathy. You know, because it is always the case. You're like, oh, I finally fixed this bug, and now there's 3 more bugs
Yeah.
that either were hidden by the previous one or created by the fix. That's always the worst, is created by the fix that you just made, and you're going through. And yeah, so it's very frustrating.
Yeah, they
When
do
that's
seem to
getting
be
in the
very
way.
good at like reacting to them these days. At
Yeah.
least they're very vocal, very transparent about it.
Yeah, it's kind of a miracle that anything works at this point, given like how many changes that code's been through over the past 10 years. And I'm sure that some of the people who know what like some of the dark innards of that code look like have probably left years ago. And there's just like when you're working with an old code base, there's just like parts of the code that nobody can touch because they're haunted.
You
So
gotta call up that guy who's moved to live in like a cabin in the woods.
yeah,
Design the first ever code. No one else understands it.
exactly.
We had a question also from the Discord, which was asking how you feel about RNG in Hearthstone. Would you prefer more or less overall, or it also does it depend on the type of RNG? Obviously, there's always some variance in card games, but
For me, because I'm very like tunneled on. I've focused so much on the competitive side now. It's impossible for me to not notice when stuff was super RNG based. Like it's painful. Like there was the CJ WeQ game in Worlds. Like I couldn't enjoy that. Like I enjoyed it a bit at the time because stakes and stuff, it was exciting, but like I can't enjoy that watching it back because I'm like too aware of this means that, this like different parts. There wasn't skill involved. It was just like a bit, someone hasn't done necessarily well. They've just got lucky, got unlucky, whatever. But I think in terms of the game as a whole, RNG should play a bit of a part because it's back to the competitive thing of like the lower status players need something to aspire to. And it's like when RNG plays enough of a factor, then anyone can beat anyone, right? And that's good for the game as a whole. But like for me, for my personal like self-serving preferences, I would like to minimal RNG because I back myself to beat anyone if I put the effort into prep. Um, the ones that I mean, I don't know. Like, draw RNG feels less bad than just randomly generated RNG to play against, at least. But in terms of a viewing experience, I think um, random generation RNG is probably better to watch because like draw RNG where you just get a non-game of someone didn't draw the card. That's not that fun to watch.
Right.
It's not that fun to be part of anyway. But like it's got to happen in some form or another.
Even if them having Reno is lucky, it's different than getting your hand
Yeah.
discarded and still winning.
Oh yeah.
So, another question from the Discord: what's your favorite text on any card? Flavor text, name on the card, what it does, anything.
Oh, it's like I mean the one that immediately sticks out is like the it's so blunt the Death Knight Rager, you know, the Battle Cry Die one. It's like that. It's so just like out of nowhere. It's just like straight to the point. I don't know. The pessimist in me is like I can relate with this guy this year a little bit because like I was just misery. Yeah, that one is like I don't know. When they printed it, it was like it's quite funny. I thought, but yeah, for me, it's like the little inner workings, the quirky bits of the game this year have not been at the forefront of my mind. So I'm sure there are
Fair
loads of
enough.
other
Yeah, fair
nice
enough.
things
Fair
in
enough,
there,
yeah.
but I've been very much blunt. Look at the numbers. Got to win the game.
So another one from the Discord. So Hearthstone now has 11 classes in the game. If Monk were to be put into the game, what class identity would you like most for it? Monk, I think, has kind of been everyone's guess at next class if they do one in a couple of years.
I think the way I would like to play it, if I were to play it, is like a lot of hero based attacks. I think, which could be a bit frustrating to play against, I suppose. But I feel like a lot of like attack buffs and like ways to mitigate damage to your hero while you're attacking something is multiple attacks on a turn. Like it's very thematic, I think, because like I think like monks do a lot with just themselves, like punching stuff and whatnot.
No weapons though, right?
Yeah, no weapons, just like very much just hero attacks. I think that could be quite thematically cool because like I like the fact that Demon Hunter and Death Knight kind of felt different. One sec. Little cough. Yeah, like I like the fact that they thematically felt different to all the other classes, and I feel like Monk having a lot of hero-based attacks would feel like a nice change. You know, a bit of a different angle to most of the classes in the game.
Maybe
Like
once
Druid
Ignis
went
is
there a
gone.
little, but not much.
I said maybe once Ignis is gone.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Oh
true.
gosh. Yeah.
Sorry, Wild.
That guy.
Honestly, the least of Wild's problems. They're quite used to it by now, I think. Another thing that we were curious about is where your username came from. It's, you know, if you like trains or model trains, or if there's some other genesis for it.
I'm not overly fond of my username, to be honest. It just like I mentioned at the start. When I first played Hearthstone, like I got home from school and I had the closed beta key in my emails. I just went, okay, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna get home and instantly play the game. But I had to make an account. So I thought, what do I choose my name as? Blah blah blah. And I think, okay, I was on the bus with my friend. He was playing a mobile game called PocketTrains, and then there we go. The worst part is, like, I really don't like that guy as well. Like, he was my friend at the time, but Like I really don't like that guy. It's my friend at the time, but we had a falling out and whatever. But yeah, it's like a little reminder every time. But yeah, is what it is. It's stuck now.
The name that I have, I also picked when I was about 12, and just by the time I was gonna be a content creator, I'm like, well, this is what people know me as on Discord already. This is what
Yeah.
my handle is on everything. We're just gonna go with it. No one will be able to pronounce it ever for the rest of time, but it's okay.
Look, I
See, this
get
is
to
the thing about-
hide with mine. Like, no one knows that this is from a video game / anime. They all are just like, oh, the flower.
And I get confused with cupcake companies on Twitter, so that's fun occasionally. But it's funny being an elder gamer that, like, so my daughters got old enough to set up like their accounts, and I'm like, just remember you're going to be stuck with this for a long time. So think about it before you just sign up for something. And of course, like, anything that they could ever think of that they want is taken. So plus they want like 16 numbers at the end of it. So that was like a whole week of deciding on the name before they actually got to play a game, which was fun. But so also from the Discord, what's your favorite game that isn't Hearthstone?
That's a tough one these days. So like I used to play a lot of different games. Like my favorite game of all time is probably The Witcher 3. Like I used to like playing like story-based
Solid choice.
RPG games, and like I enjoyed Elden Ring when it came out. I haven't been able to get into a game like that in a long time because of the whole Hearthstone thing. Like every minute I spent playing another game felt like a minute I was ruining my chances on ladder. But it's games like that. Is it just video games or physical games?
They don't say, so whatever. Yeah.
Unspecified.
Yeah, when I'm staying with my family, we like to play a bunch of different board games. We're enjoying one called Wingspan at the moment.
Oh,
That's a good
yeah,
one,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That one's very
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, big fan of that little card game. I win quite a lot, which is quite helpful. Like, my family going, okay, we got to take the world champion down this time. Which is quite funny. Yeah, I like just playing any sort of board game that they like pick out. We get new ones for Christmas each year and stuff like that. So, but yeah, in terms of video games, it's stuff like The Witcher and games like that I haven't been able to get into for a while. And I'm looking forward to having a bit more time to do that.
Yeah, I was gonna say now you finally got a chance. You can play Baldur's Gate or
Yeah, my cousin's been playing that. My dad plays that with his friends as well, and they're very bad at it, but they're enjoying being rubbish.
Sometimes being bad at it makes it more fun. So
it's true.
It's funny watching my dad muddle through games. Like he plays a lot of games, but he's not good at any of them, and he doesn't care.
Honestly, there are times where I'm like, I wish I could not min-max this because then it would be a little more challenging.
That's how.
Well,
I
that
feel
was like
about
I got Baldur's Gate last week, and it was like they both can attest, like it was like an existential crisis for the first day, just trying to set up my character, because it's like, okay, what do I do? And then I got like a wall of text, and I'm like, I just want to blow things up, but I want to blow things up the right way. And then I finally get through. It's like, oh no, I have to make a companion now. Like, no, it's just cosmetic. Okay, fine, thank God. Like, let's go. It took me like a full evening just to get through character creation and like all these decisions of like, well, which ones of these am I not going to be able to take back?
I've spent hours and hours just on like equipment loadouts for it, and then I get to the actual fights, and it's like, oh, I just killed 8 things in one turn as my barbarian with 8 attacks. Why have I done this so hard? Like, I could have just played this game.
The deck builder in me always has me like doing D&D builds as well. So I'm the player who's like a little sad when their character dies, but there's the part of me that's just like, oh, it's fine. I've got another one. I'm all set to go. If this character dies, here's what the next one will be.
Well, so I mean, I'm coming in from 200 hours plus in Diablo 4, right? So like, everything there is just like, you have to get the build exactly right or you're just gonna die. so that's just the way I'm coming. I'm like, no, you don't have to worry about it. It's fine. You'll figure it. You can change it later. Like, okay, fine. Like, just tell me what I need to do to not, not completely hate myself for the first 10 hours, and I'll be okay.
All right. Well, towards the end here, we've got this. These are quick hits that we would do with all the people that we have on as guests, including like devs that we interview, etc. So, uh, which is your favorite class?
Ooh. Used to be Druid. These days, probably Demon Hunter.
Fair enough.
Solid.
And do you have a favorite deck of all time?
Malagos Druid. Or Mozaki Mage. It's close.
Okay. And then Hearthstone character.
Probably Malagos.
Okay.
I would say. Yeah. I don't know.
Cool.
I think dragons are reasonably cool and fits my favorite decks.
Is there a Malagos hero skin or no?
In
No,
Battlegrounds.
don't think so.
Yeah. Huh. Be cool if they made like a Malagos mage skin or something. And then this is, of course, just kind of an insider baseball here. But what's your favorite sandwich order? What do you get?
I don't do a lot of sandwich. I mean, my when I just need something on the go, I'll get a BLT. But
So
I mean, I like prawn mayonnaise sandwiches as well. Like I like a prawn mayonnaise baguette. I like making those myself. But I'm not a huge sandwich guy, to be honest.
this is because Hat's from New York. So that's
Yeah.
You guys
that's
live
kind of where
differently
it
in
all
the
goes
States.
back to.
Yeah.
This question has its origins in is a hot dog a sandwich? That's
Oh.
kind of where.
Yes. Because that and if it's a deli sandwich, that gets into a whole 15-minute conversation.
Did you
so.
solve that one?
Oh no, there's no.
That's an unsolvable question. We
I
go
think
long on
Hat's
this
conclusion
podcast, but
was
Okay.
that
Yeah,
a
I'm
hot
not
dog
gonna-
is a taco. So
Oh, okay.
that was where that ended.
This is how I realized I was neither quite Jewish enough and definitely too West Coast. for the vibe here, but I think so. This last question we've kind of touched on some, but what are your plans for Hearthstone now that you are the world champion?
Well,
Or do you know yet?
It's still kind of undecided. They're kind of gonna try consistent streaming because streaming's fun, but it's gonna be hard if I don't feel like I'm part of a bigger thing. Like competing, feeling like part of a system is nice. Like streaming just ladder with no aim seems like it could get a bit dull. And I will also see what the system's like. If it can like accommodate a bit more of a casual approach, then I could compete again because two worlds wins would be quite nice.
You would be the first.
Mm-hmm. Does Essie Glory got close.
Tice also came close.
Oh, he didn't get one though. I mean, he did come close.
Wait,
Tice won European champs, but never won worlds.
yeah.
is that right? Oh man.
Yeah, he lost to
See, this stuff-
Osaka in 2015. He
Yeah.
he lost the freeze mage ping yourself in the face game. Or he might have won the game, but he lost the match.
Yeah, I
misremembering
think he
that
won
one.
that game and then lost 3-2 or something.
See, I misremembered
watched a lot of
because Tice is still around. Osaka, I don't know.
He showed up for one Masters tour last year, I think, or 2 years ago. Just randomly, just went, I'm going to play a Masters tour. Like just qualified and went, okay, I'll play this one, and then just left again.
We've got catch-up packs. Anyone could come back.
The catch-up packs are really nice.
Mhm.
My partner got so many cards. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, so is there anything that you wanted us to ask you? I mean, we've asked you a lot of questions. Is there anything that you wanted us to ask that we didn't ask you?
It's not so much about asking. It's like a thing that like it's on the catch-up packs thing reminded me of this because like WeQ. Like I mean, no one knows WeQ. Like everyone knows of WeQ, but no one knows him. Like I had a nice after day one of Worlds, I had a Discord call with him at like 4 a.m. before I played day two, just like seeing how he was doing, and like he took the whole thing very well. But like he told me a bunch of stuff that I just wish we'd known throughout the year, and like I want to because I think if there is a system next year, he'll probably compete. So I just want more people to like know more about him because like he never competed before this year. He's it's like he was this like faceless enemy the entire year basically. But having talked to him, he's just like a genuine nice guy. He's the only one at Worlds younger than me. I think he's 21, and yeah, never played a tournament before. So Worlds was his first time ever on camera as well in a tournament. That must have been a bit daunting. But like he came back to the game at the end of last year because of returning player packs of all things.
Uh-huh.
And um like he said that in January he just played he's very similar to me in how he started competing. In January he played Jackpot Rogue, I think he said, because it was just fun for him, and then found himself rank 1. And then like he ended up finishing rank 2, and then he went, oh, I can actually compete this year, and then just kept going. And that's like exactly the same way as I did it. I just yeah, just little things about him that I just wish we'd had the info on earlier. It's funny because McBanterface was the biggest loser from Week Q's sudden appearance because he lost out on the America's world spot to him. But like it's funny coming away from him going, oh, I lost the world spot to catch up to returning player packs, and he's come away from it saying that they should make the returning player experience a lot worse. It's too good.
Yeah, it would be great if like I it's unlikely they do this, but I remember when they did things like that documentary with Ant, right, where they did the player profiles of
Mm.
people. It'd be great just to get to know
I wanted us to have
players a lot
player
more.
interviews before Worlds like they did last year, just like
Hmm.
to get a little bit from someone.
Yeah.
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 It's just yeah, because I started through all of it as just a fan of watching Hearthstone esports. So like that's why it was such a big deal for me actually being there and winning myself, because like I'd seen everyone else do it. I've watched every Worlds like start to finish basically, and like following each of the players, knowing a bit more about them, it just feels like it's sort of a small thing, but like it helps a lot. Like instead of them
Yeah.
being these like faceless or just like you don't know anything about them, they just pop up once every few months and then they go away again until the next tournament that you've maybe forgotten about because it wasn't advertised.
We
I mean,
got him
especially
the
if they don't
client this
stream.
year.
Well, it's like especially for the players who don't stream, right? Like, I mean, they're players who know you and Median Rec Fan because you stream, and Casey and Big Banterface and some of the other folks who didn't make it to Worlds. But like some of these players who don't stream or don't stream in English, right? Then a lot of those players just don't get the same kind of recognition, and these tournaments are always more fun when you can root for people.
Yeah.
And I mean, especially with the number of people that we had in repetitive tournaments, it is a shame that we didn't get to know some of them about as well as others. And it does feel like a bit of a missed opportunity, though it seems like the admin team was having enough trouble just getting the broadcast to happen. So we could only hope for so much, I suppose, but hopefully they'll have gotten their feet out from or feet underneath them enough to be able to do a better job of that next year.
I've given a lot of feedback, so hopefully a lot of feedback.
I forget. Did they do the choose your champion thing?
No,
No, I don't think so.
no.
Yeah, because that was
Even
always
that.
another thing that like little thing that gets people to know it's happening because free packs always. And
I think they stopped that when they started doing Twitch drops again. Like they didn't have to do that because, or I mean, even with
guess.
YouTube they did those, right? That was what
But
they did to get people to watch before they had Twitch drops.
Yeah, I just think because it gives people a little more like, well, I want to put in the work of like picking the player that I think is going to be best. So let me take a look at these players, right? I always enjoyed that. We as casters kind of still get to do that thing, but it's a little different. I felt like I cursed Rekma. I felt so bad.
Oh, I thought I was gonna get cursed. That was ridiculous.
Well, and as when I started playing Hearthstone, I didn't watch a lot of streams at first, and I just watched the esports, and it really was helpful when I was able to know some about who I was watching and start to build up a narrative just from that, and then that directed me to watching some streams, and I definitely just having the esports is so valuable, even just as a fairly casual player back then, because it taught me so much more about how to play the game and was my gateway into the community. And just like listening to the casters, and I didn't really know anything about card game fundamentals, card advantage, or anything like that. And so listening to all of that, I think it, especially when people know about it, it reaches people who are not as into the rest of the Hearthstone community. And I think that really, that was one of the major things that got me more involved and made me a better player.
Well, I think that basically wraps things up. So we have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at coinconcede.com, where you can also find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/coinconcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com, and write out to our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at CoinConcede, as well as like, share, and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/CoinConcede. And if you'd like some CC swag, head on over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. Big thanks to our producers, Number Theory, Kresh, Beef Squatch, David P., Walu, Jeremy T., Bottle Caps, Grumpy Monk, The Burger Club, Kirk Regan, Forgiven One, Grizzly Bear, and The Grand Arcanon. Coin Concedes. Wicked?
Well, I'll coin concede to Grizzly Bear, who I had mentioned last week that I was having a devil of a time getting all of my coaching scheduled, and he was one of the ones who was unlucky enough to be on the receiving end of my scheduling nightmare, because I forgot that I was working this weekend, because I normally don't work on weekends, but the end of the year is when we have to do all the things to manually to make the systems happy. So but we had a coaching on Saturday on Tree and Druid that it went horribly from a results oriented point of view. Like, I think it was a good coaching in terms of, we were doing all the right things and it was just like not working no matter what we were doing. But they had messaged me afterwards, and I think one of the lessons that they took from that coaching was don't play Tree and Druid.
No, it's a good deck.
Because they said they switched to Arcane Hunter and went 25-11 after that, straight up to Legend. So, that's I even if the only thing I taught that was don't play Tree and Druid, play something else, I think that was it was, and I'm happy that they made that come together pretty quickly in a couple of days. So kudos to them.
Results-oriented thinking. It's a good deck. You guys, how about you?
Well, first I'll coin concede to your boy Schmim for the Christmas coin concede. I had family all day, and I went and hid for an hour to decompress and played some ladder and got a coin concede, and then come back and be like, see, people know who I am, Mom and Dad. So very well appreciated. And also, congrats to Squash on the VS podcast, new host. And I can definitely relate to being in the Discord and then suddenly being on the podcast. So best of luck. He's doing a great job so far. And also just wanted to mention Trollden.
Yeah.
Trollden has a new video, and they included a clip from our very own Wikigood. So go check that out. Link is in the show notes.
Jordan was like, oh no, Clark is stealing my job. Well, of course, going to from all of us to you, Pocket, for joining us on what otherwise would have been like just us answering questions from the Discord. There really is nothing going on, or us complaining about Rogue for an inordinate amount
It's
of
been a
time.
pleasure.
Yeah. Or do a year
Thank you.
in review like every other Hearthstone podcast did this week, but I think this is a little bit more fun
I mean,
than
we
that.
can do
So
that after New Year's too. That's fine. But yeah, do you have any coin concedes of your own? Just people you want to shout out, think whatever.
I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again. My parents, lovely people. They've been a huge help like throughout the entire Hearthstone time. It's like it's just it's been lovely them not pressuring me to get a real job, and now I've finally justified it. It feels like, for sure, and that's just a lovely thing for me. That's the main thing.
Awesome. Well, and we'll quite concede to your parents too for bringing you into the world. So we got to have this interview with you. So
It's going way back.
Too kind.
but that's gonna do it for us for this week. So until next time, keep calm and have Happy New Year. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
Go and concede.